What's up, boys? This is a game I mentioned to you guys a while ago that has not one, but two brilliant moves made by myself and my opponent that both involved a queen sacrifice, which was super awesome to see. Frankly, neither of us should have won this game with how bad I was, but we'll jump right into it because there's just a ton of fireworks in the middle, and a lot of that comes from the fact that after 1e4, opponent goes for the Sicilian, and lately I've been playing the Smith-Morra gambit, which is d4, c takes d4, and then you push the c pawn to c3. And yes, there's basically two moves right here. Main one being either one, you take on c3, get the extra pawn, and I get my knight out. And theoretically, if you're a Smith-Morra, your mindset is fast development, quick piece activity, I go for checkmate. And if that doesn't happen, then you're just down a pawn. And so some people like to play the move d3 here. Because it's kind of annoying because normally you basically want, I got the ideal setup essentially, and this is one of the last book moves where basically you get your bishop out to c4, even though this pawn is here, and so the bishop is kind of just like, is it really attacking that square? It's still the right square for it to be. This is all the book move, and there's a lot of crazy knight d5 sacrifices, triple, quadruple, double checkmates, and so that's kind of the idea at least. And so, yeah, going back to this point, this player chose the take on c3 route, get an extra pawn, because there's a good rule in chess I like, which is the best way to refute a gambit is to accept it. So take the gambit, be up the material, and then just say, yeah, like it's not going to work. I'm up material. Like, yes, you may get some activity, but it's not going to pay off in the long run. So we get some craziness here. Now here is where things really start going off the rails for me. Even though I'm down a pawn, position is dead equal according to the engine, but I make a fundamental mistake here. I looked at this move what the engine wants me to play, which is knight b5, which I looked at just makes sense, trying to sort of harass the queen, ask it some questions about where it wants to be, so just a sample line. Here, obviously, you can't move to any of these squares. This is not checkmate. If you move back, sad. And so engine says queen b8, but if you move somewhere like right here, for instance, then I start hitting you with, well, what's it saying? Bishop? I don't know if I'd play that, but I mean, I'd probably just do something like this. That gets taken. So, frankly, it's probably good to play this because I might have lost the game. But, anyways, I played, unfortunately, a terrible move here, which is h3, which might not take it might take a minute before you realize what the problem was, which is why I played the move. Because obviously, it seems like, well, I'm chasing the knight away. I'm covering the checkmate. So what's the problem? And the problem is that's when my opponent comes in with brilliant move, knight to d4. Now here's the problem. If I take this knight, then he will take with check. And if I take this knight, then he will checkmate me. And if I move the queen anywhere to any of these squares that are not, covered, I mean, that's covered, you wouldn't want to move there, but if I move it here, let me just make a random move, then takes with check, only legal move is to move over here, and then I get checkmated, or the other only legal move is take here, but then it's still the same checkmate. So what's the problem? Knight d4 wins the queen on the spot. So I take the route and say, let's get as much material as I possibly can. I take there, take here, and it's important to take with the bishop as opposed to the knight because the bishop is undefended. So takes, and right now we're sitting at, I have two minor pieces for the queen. There's only one problem. This is a Smith-Morra gambit, so I'm already down a pawn. So black is +4 here. I didn't want to basically take here, and the problem is takes, and basically, black just starts crashing through, and this is, it's very frightening. So I didn't want to do that, so I just said I'll push, and if he starts pushing this pawn, I'll deal with that later. At the end of the day, if, let me just make some random moves. If we get to this position, I'll just push if I want to. For some reason, this is winning, and I don't remember why. I think this is like a specific tactic, but that's not important. But in this situation, if I'm so worried about the pawn, I just do this, and at the end of the day, if you push forward, this is not ideal, but this is what I was thinking at least, and this is about as worse as I was before. So go for this motif. Yeah, it's important to basically move the queen at this point because of this tactic, knight to d5, winning the bishop because it's double attacked, and so there's no shenanigans where, let's just say black makes a random move. There's no shenanigans where you get to move your queen over here because I'm still going to have this tactic, although actually probably taking with the knight might be just as good because then you defend the a-pawn, but so that's why black moves the queen back, but then things get really exciting. Push the pawn up, force the bishop to make a decision, and if you take here, then I'll just do this, stack on the c-file, and I might have something. Maybe I'll win that bishop, and if you move back, then I'll push b4, and now you have a question. Where's the bishop going to go? There's really only a couple good options. This move actually would be interesting, to move all the way back. and you get some pressure, but that's not important. Moves back. Okay, now I make a fun move. Move the knight forward. Obviously, I want to double attack this. But this is crazy. And if y'all are interested in a puzzle from black's side, I would definitely see if you can solve this. There's only one move here for black that maintains the advantage. And even though black's up +4 material, right now, the engine evaluation at least only says minus 1.5. So all that material is apparently nothing compared to the awesomeness of this position. So only one move here, and he didn't find it. He moves back. Seems very natural to me. Moves back to d8. Now what's the problem? What happened back here when we go all the way back? Black made a brilliant move, and on the next move, he won the queen. Well, let's look at this section. Right here, rook takes c8, brilliant move. There are no escape squares for the queen along this whole diagonal. Every single square is covered. And what happens if you take the queen? Then I hit you d6 check, and then I pick up your queen, and now we're back in a position. Material is equal. So I just thought that the parallel of this was just absolutely amazing, where that the knight finally comes in there, wins the queen, and there's some amazing sacrifice that's very short term, and you win it all back immediately. And I haven't had a game like this that was quite as interesting that in a long time. Obviously, if you do nothing and you just move away, then I'll just take and you take back. But I'm still up material here because in the variation where you take the rook, then I deliver check, then you move up, then I take, you actually win the knight. So taking is the best move. There's no idea of moving the king out of the way for some reason. So game goes on. It's still any person's game here. Basically, my idea of this move is if you take, then I'm going to bring the knight in, and then there's not really a great way to defend this pawn, so I'm pretty much going to win it. Obviously, if you move over here, I'll check here, and I can always evacuate to this square pretty safely, and there's no way to defend this pawn because obviously my bishop guards that square. So I thought to myself, if I can start chipping away at his pawns, then maybe I'll have something interesting here. Doesn't take, I push, then I say, okay, well, I'll take here, and if you push here, then I'll attack here, and maybe I have this anchor. And game kind of goes on. Here I lost my mind a little bit too much being so focused on getting this rook, but it did work out in my favor. Now I go after that b pawn. Now here this makes sense in hindsight. I push the pawn forward, and basically the idea was push, and then I create the old anchor, and there's just no way black can take the bishop or the pawn ever because his bishop's on the wrong color. But a really good move the engine points out is just to play bishop to c8 because this pawn chain is super weak from the backside with the bishop on the same color, but didn't do that. Also, now got a nice tactic, winning the rook. Kind of hopeless at this point, given that I'm up a couple pieces, but black still does have a few pawns extra than I do. I have 3 pawns, and black has 5, so he played on, but then kind of fell for a tactic, and so the game came to an end. But that was my game with 2 brilliant moves where we both lost our queens. So hope you guys enjoyed that.